Hello, everybody, and welcome back. We have made it to our final session. Today, we're going to cover episodes 9 and 10, which really talks a lot about future-proofing. So once you've gotten there, how do you kind of stay there? How do you stay in that high-quality zone and highly efficient manufacturing? As a reminder, if you have any technical difficulties today, just simply use the chat function there on the bottom of your screen, and somebody on our end will work with you to get that taken care of as soon as possible. So today, you'll have Terrance Holbrook along with Brian Curran speaking, and even me. I will be here to talk to you through episode 9. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Terrance.
Hello, and thank you, Jen. It is weird to have you in the seat and not behind the curtain. Anyway, so welcome back to our final series. Today we're going to talk about, like Jen said, what's next, right? So once you've gotten to that digital step and you've started to implement that digital manufacturing, along with your rollout plan to get you to that final state, how do you keep adapting as we start driving towards that true culture of quality throughout the company that's embedded through our data systems? And of course, what to do when events occur, when things happen, like the COVID pandemic that we're currently in, and as well as what to do once the pandemic's been resolved, once it's over with, how things have changed, how things are going to change, and what you can do as a company with your data and your information and your culture of quality that you've now created, and how to bring that even further as we progress down.
So as I've listened to you, Terrance, over the course of 10 different episodes, I have decided that I really need to get Terrance a Culture of Quality t-shirt.
Yes.
In fact, I should probably get him 5 so that he has one to wear every day of the week.
Yes, all green.
All green.
Yes.
In Terrance's favorite color. Well, I'm Jennifer Hurst. You probably just know me as your moderator for the last few sessions, but at MasterControl, I'm the Senior Director of Public Relations and Content. I'm not on the technology side. I don't develop software, but I do write a lot about what we do here and all of the different pain points that our software can solve and kind of what's happening, and learn a lot about what's happening in the industry. So I spent a lot of time in PR, more than I really want to admit, but I have been in life sciences technology for 5 years, and I just love to tell stories. So that's what I'm going to do here today with you guys.
Awesome, and again, I'm Terrance Holbrook. I've been with MasterControl for 6 years, as of this week actually. And today is a special topic for me because really my focus in my career today is using data to plan for the future. I work with very large companies in machine learning and artificial intelligence use of big data platforms, as well as working deeply in the manufacturing and quality and how to bring that information to help better companies for the future. So again, today hits a little bit home for me as that's where I love to focus, right? So what's next? What are we going to do? And and sometimes that what's next, you got to be very careful about the steps you take. When you're preparing for the future, when you're adapting, you have to sometimes get an exemption or look a little sideways or avoid something. And we've seen that through the pandemic, as the FDA has issued some exemptions and allowed companies to stretch beyond what they normally would do, bending the rules, so to speak, to be able to manufacture. And we've also now seen, since the pandemic started, what happens, right? We have hand sanitizers being recalled left and right, all kinds of dangerous chemicals in them. Now everybody checks the label, or I hope you check the label to see where it came from and make sure that it's not on the FDA's recall list, because some of these are pretty bad. And so really trying to avoid that. How do you prepare for the next pandemic? How do you get to position yourself so that where your intentions meet your outcomes, which is really what the FDA is all about.
Yeah.
And of course, when we talk about pandemics, when we talk about issuance of orders or emergency orders or declarations that come from government, how do we really innovate and how do we take that to the next level without those issues next time?
Right. So, the FDA issuing an exemption or an emergency use authorization, those are good things when you're in the type of situation that we were in, right? Because we need some of those things to happen faster or more quickly. We just want the assurances that whoever is producing those materials or that equipment or whatever is doing it with quality at the source, right? They have quality, because it's like there are more reasons to produce something at a high quality level than just compliance, right? Yes. So those emergency use authorizations and those exemptions are important. They're good for us to have in those types of situations. The other thing that's really important when you're in those situations is to be able to pivot and scale quickly. And that's where that whole digital piece comes into play. If you have that structure already set up where you've advanced your technology and you're operating in a more modern facility, you're going to be able to pivot, right? If you need to change. Or let's say you already are making something that the country needs. Like hand sanitizer, and just all of a sudden you just got to make a whole lot more of it. You have to be able to scale quickly, and that's where those digital systems really help.
Oh yeah. Well, and speaking of scale quick, I'm building a shop in my backyard. I have a terrible hobby. I restore cars, and I'm going to put my fuse block together, and home light fuses are out across the country.
Oh.
You can't find them anywhere, right? So I had to use Siemens brand, right? So it's, being able to scale to adapt in these type of situations is critical to change product as well as to sustain products. So many people started doing at-home projects. That stuff started leaving shelves that wasn't normal, like hot tubs. That's something that's gone through the roof as well, right? So being able to adapt no matter what industry you're in, especially when it comes to that critical industries, life sciences, we're producing drugs, we're producing PPE, GM producing, respirators. We've got to make sure that we have that embedded culture of quality throughout the system so we can scale. And of course that leads into, we were just talking about the vaccine. That's next on the horizon. There's the vaccines coming. I read something today, China's got one out in the field that they're testing, Russia's got one out. It's only a matter of time. And there's really those three different elements to the vaccine. You have, once the clinicals and trials are done and it's through the clearances, then you have to have the ability to manufacture it, the ability to manufacture and fill the dispense it methods, and then you also have to be able to deliver it. What impact is that going to have on our environments when this happens, right? We need to be able to plan for that, be able to scale and adapt. What opportunities are out there and what opportunities for us to grow our quality through these if all of our information, like we've just completed, has gone digital. How quickly can we adapt and grow?
And then there's a long-term vision on that too, because we're probably going to need these vaccines more than just once.
Yeah.
The
flu shot's not once. Yeah.
Right. I mean, viruses mutate, they learn and behave and adjust to their environment, which means we're probably going to have to do the same, which I foresee us doing this many, many more times over the next few years, right?
Yes. So what does that mean? Near term, long term, really, how is the best way to adapt? Well, that's the whole series here, right? It's how do we adapt? You have to have your information digital. Paper doesn't scale. Paper doesn't stretch. It's almost impossible to learn and adapt quickly if your information is locked away in siloed systems and siloed departments. Really being able to expand that out through the organization with that culture of quality in mind. And then we can really plan for going into those new arenas, into those new areas, if something were to happen like this pandemic again.
Yeah, I think the general mindset that we see is paper is simple, right? I pick up a piece of paper, it's blank, I can do whatever I want with it. And technology is hard. Like, I have to know systems, I have to know this, but it's actually the opposite.
I use TikTok. I don't.
Oh dear. I think that's kind of the mentality that's maybe been holding the life sciences industry back, and it's been proved like they've used it, right? Let's not break something that's already working, and they aren't realizing the fact that it can work. It just adds so many more steps and time and inefficiencies to the process.
Well, and part of that's realizing new ways of doing things.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the whole point of technology. Speaking earlier with Aaron about validation. The validation of the 1980s, 1990s, even the 2000s, even 2010s is not what tomorrow's validation looks like. Validation has had some major leaps forward, and if you really learn how to take that information into those digital systems, validation becomes easier, because the whole point of validation is do what you say what you do, and make sure you're following the requirements. Well, if you have a digital system doing that for you, it's much easier than paper, right?
Yeah.
Paper, you have to check and make sure, and so it's a lot easier to go through those steps for the future if you adapt to today first.
So that brings me to one of my stories, right? So I'm in marketing and PR and communications, have been my whole life, but I am a Six Sigma green belt. I took Six Sigma for marketing, and everyone thought I was crazy. But you're just learning about constant improvement. You're learning about what are the things that I can put into place that help me improve on a regular basis, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we always talk about fail-safe methods. And I remember my instructor would say, well, you can't put diesel in a regular car because the hose won't fit. So like it protects you from that. Well, that's what digital systems can do, right? It can put in parameters for you. So you can't put in something that doesn't fit into the system. Yeah, there you go, see? So the digital system can help you find the constraints, it can help you remove the blockers, and it can help you reach new efficiencies.
Of course, you do realize the issue with the diesel and gas thing, it doesn't work the other way.
So
it's not totally Pokio, but there are ways to completely Pokio. But yes, and so really when we're looking at how to take our systems digital provides that. It provides the automatic calculations with the automatic validations, making sure you're who you are. I mean, think about facial recognition, biometrics recognition. Authentication has come light years in the last 5 or 6 years. Now we'll continue to adapt and continue to get better, but it is essential that we learn how to take those systems digital so that we can plan for the future and continually improve. So again, as we're talking about the future, you have to prepare for it. Yeah. This won't be the last. It wasn't the first. We've had swine flu, we've had other pandemics as well. So really the key is how do we set our systems up today to prepare for the future so that we can adapt quicker when the next pandemic or the next massive earthquake or hurricane. How can we protect our company's best interests through utilizing digital systems to hold our data, transmit our data, and consume that ever important information to feed back into the system for quality?
Yeah, and Terrance, one of the other things that we've learned in this process about how technology can fuel the future, I don't think there were very many businesses out there that felt like their companies could be highly productive using WebEx and Zoom and Slack and email. But we've been forced into a situation where we've had to collaborate remotely. And I know working with my team, it was hard in the beginning, but we figured out different ways to do it. We figured out new ways to host our meetings and to share information with each other so that we could stay productive. Well, guess what the FDA learned in that same time frame? The FDA learned how to do a remote audit. And recently there was an article in the RAPS publication that the FDA is going to get back to doing on-site audits, right? Things are, things are getting a little bit better. They've got some good safety protocols in place, but they also noted at the end of the article that they're going to do them on an as-needed basis. And the precursor to understanding if they need to do an on-site audit would be a remote audit. So they got good at remote audits. Like, well, we can check in with people remotely. We can kind of get a sense of what they're doing. And then if we feel like we still need to go on site, we can go on site. So how much easier is that remote audit going to be when you have a digital system and you can just turn over the information that's needed to the FDA without having to go scan a bunch of papers and create PDFs and...
Exactly. Well, it's adapting, right? And that's the government adapting, by the way, right? So companies, we can adapt quicker, better, faster, right? I mean, not to say government can't, but not the norm for sure. So, and again, now what you're talking about is making sure that we're future-proofed, right? That we've got the ability to handle what's coming that's new. The FDA switching its protocol is going to be major for a lot of companies that are used to that. Their audits may increase, right? Because now they're not traveling. Now they're not on site as much. Their budget maybe stays the same, but now they have more time, right? So you got to be able to understand how that's going to impact your business, how that is going to help you really enhance that culture of quality, really take you to that next level.
So one of the things that we've talked about a lot, Terrance, when you're digital, is that you can pivot and you can scale. So we have a couple of clients here at MasterControl who have pivoted really well. So Fuji is going to start manufacturing COVID-19 vaccines.
That's right.
Right? Not in their wheelhouse, but they're able to do that. They're able to make that pivot. Stryker's another one of our clients. While there weren't patients having elective surgeries like knee replacements and hip replacements, that means there's not a need for their product. So instead, they quickly shifted to making emergency beds for hospitals. And they were able to develop a design and build out all of their quality documentation and use their manufacturing lines for that instead. So those are great examples of how companies were able to pivot in a situation and still stay profitable as an organization.
That's kind of cool.
It's very cool. I think it's very cool.
Yeah, well, and to that point, those were both dramatic changes, right? What is it that your company can do to scale faster, to make these changes in the next period of time, right? The next time this happens, right? We have all kinds of new elements entering the world now. The world is flattening, information is traveling quickly. If information's traveling and our information isn't there, our information isn't traveling, which means it's not being fed back through our clients, through our employees, through our leadership to be able to adapt and make those changes. It's ever so important to make sure that your systems aren't locked into paper.
So the other thing that we've talked about, Terrance, and I think you're pretty familiar with some of these companies, I know you've worked with them for a long time, is scaling. So like I said, let's say you happen to be in that spot where you already make something that's needed, like Nelson Labs, right? We heard from them in one of our other sessions. They test PPE equipment to make sure it's of the right caliber and has all the right efficacies to it. Their business went through the roof, and they were able to scale and accommodate that in this time because of their digital systems. And then Catalent is another customer, and they have quite a few contracts with some of the pharmaceutical companies to manufacture vaccines. And I know that they're building some additional facilities, and they're gearing up for that because they'll be ready to take that on.
Well, the government did place huge orders, so somebody's got to be there to manufacture them.
Yep. So it's time to pull out our t-shirt one more time and talk about our culture of quality. One of the things that I want to talk about a little bit outside of, we've talked about creating great products and being able to pivot and being able to scale and having a digital system at your core to help you do all of that. But there's another little piece that's, I don't know if you want to call it a bonus, or there's something else in there, and that's the data. So having that culture of quality and having a great quality management system and digitally connected manufacturing not only makes you more resilient, it gives you information that can help you build your business, right?
Live time.
In live time.
That's right. Like you were talking about earlier, continuous improvement, green belt, black belt, right? Understanding,
I know.
Trying to figure out how to move your manufacturing forward without information is almost impossible, right? Putting information on a piece of paper that gets looked at later, right? That's not continuous improvement. Continuous improvement is being able to adapt in process. It's that embedded quality into the flow. And Six Sigma and other quality processes teach that, right? Quality at the source. You can't have quality at the source if the information isn't being fed back into it.
Well, we've talked a lot. I know you normally take this slide.
I'm going to let you take it.
We have talked a lot. I will say I work with a lot of these partners on a day-to-day basis. We build white papers together, or maybe we build a webinar together, and all of them on this slide are excellent experts in their respective fields. And so if you're out there and you're thinking like, this is a huge task to tackle and I need someone to help me along the way, there's a list of 5 of MasterControl's partners that would be wonderful, wonderful resources for you.
And we're always here to help as well.
Exactly.
So you can reach out at any time. So again, to wrap up, we're talking about going into the future. This won't be the last pandemic. It won't be the last major change that ripples through our economy and our country and our companies. There's always going to be something. There was a swine flu, there was the 1918, there's all these different elements that we can run across, and how do we truly be prepared? And of course, the easiest way to scale is to have everything already digital so that you can grow as things change, as they're needed. And so these exemptions, again, aren't indefinite. They're not going to go forever. You have to plan for what to do when they end and what to do after the next ones come, right? You have to be prepared to adapt, prepared to change. And staying compliant is so critical. And again, to stay compliant, you have to have lifetime information, lifetime data. We talked a little bit about validation with Aaron, and continuous data is important. Being that culture of quality throughout your organization is imperative.
And then our last bullet point up there, digital systems give you flexibility, right? If you need to pivot, or if you need to scale, or if you just need data to help you understand where your roadblocks are or where your areas of improvement lie, digital systems are going to be able to provide that for you.
For sure. Thank you so much, Jen. Appreciate you coming on and helping me with this one.
Yeah. Thank you for allowing me to present to you today. Yeah.
And we'll be up next with Brian Curran.